everybody, welcome to another video by Liminal Spaces. So today we are talking about another story out of Ray Bradbury's Dark Carnival. This of course was recently republished, which is wonderful. There's all kinds of amazing, great early Ray Bradbury stories in this. It's absolutely worth picking up. We're going to specifically talk about the story The Handler. This was first published back in Weird Tales in January of 1947. This is not my favorite story from this book, simply because I don't believe any of the characters are likable. All of the characters in this story seem pretty despicable. It is very morbid. It's very dark. It's an intriguing story. It's just hard to find somebody that you can latch onto and root for. The story was not republished in October Country, but it was republished eventually. It has been in other collections of Ray Bradbury's. They also did film it for Ray Bradbury Theater. They did an interesting thing in the Ray Bradbury Theater version, which is they tried to make the lead character more despicable. And when I get into the plot of this, I'll kind of talk about why I think that was a good idea. I don't think it solved the problem, but I think it helped just a little bit with the problem. All right, I'm going to go into some spoilers about it now. So if you haven't read it yet, you can grab it and read it real quick. It's like 7 pages. It's not a big story at all. So it's about a person who owns a church and a mortuary and a graveyard. And he's got them all together so that when a person dies, they literally can get the body taken care of, do the funeral, and then go to the graveyard all in one place. It's very, very convenient. But the person who owns all of these businesses is very, very shy. They have a very hard time dealing with people from the public. So they have this weird routine that they go through each day. In the morning, they go out into town and they converse with people and they do shopping, right? They run their errands, but it's more than that. The time that they spend out in public is being used to build up this person's hatred and this person's resentment about the people that live in the town. When people see him, they make a joke. And then when he doesn't respond negatively to it because he's so shy, when he just sort of giggles and laughs it off, they start telling bigger and bigger jokes. And it's kind of turned into this thing in the town. And he'll go out and take all of this abuse through the town and just take all of that anger and hatred in and then go back to his work and basically mutilate the dead bodies that he's working on, because all the funerals that are done here are closed casket. I'm not sure why that is, but it gives him the opportunity to do whatever he likes to the bodies before they're buried. So the town people that are described are pretty despicable. Like, they do horrible things, but then he's doing horrible things as well. So you're just put in this really weird position where you honestly just don't know how to react to what's happening. When he gets back there, there's a woman who was constantly eating sweets, and she really valued her mind. So what he does is remove her brain from her skull and then pack it full of whipped cream and then put the skull cap back on. And that's how she's buried. There's another person who's racist, who's very, very proud of being white and is really despicable to the people in town who aren't pure white. So after he dies, our lead character replaces his blood with black ink so that his skin turns black. He talks about another woman, and I don't know what crime she committed or why. They don't really talk about her character very much, but he cuts off parts of other men and puts them all around her in the coffin. Even some things inside of her, I believe. It's really, really grotesque and morbid and dark. And any kind of a statement that could be made, like the racist thing, is interesting because our lead character literally says that he is an immigrant. So he must have felt this disgusting aggression from this racist guy And then to turn him black, basically, in the coffin is this weird kind of revenge that sort of makes sense. But the other stuff, I don't know. This story just, I think it was just an experiment in darkness, really. I mean, the whole thing is just really morbid and really, really dark. So the last body that he comes across is a person who falls into comas often, but then comes back out. So he's actually been thought to be dead before and then woken back up. And of course, this time he also woke back up, but he overheard everything that he was doing to the other people. Oh, there's another body I should talk about. Sorry. There's a very strong person who lived kind of a sinful life because women were really attracted to him. So our lead character cuts his head off and puts his head in the coffin, and then just puts a bunch of bricks in the coffin and saves the body so that later, if he can find an assistant who's willing to do the kind of stuff that he does, he can have the assistant sew that body to his head when he's dead, so that in the afterlife he has that body instead of his body. Really crazy dark stuff. But this person who woke up heard all of it. So he says he's going to go tell the town. And of course, our lead character can't have that, so he injects him with something that kills him. But as the old guy's dying, he kind of says this curse. He begs all the dead people in the graveyard to hear him and to seek revenge for what he's done to all of their bodies. So the dead rise, they rip this guy to pieces, and they bury him in like 5 different graves. And they etch his name with their fingernails on the tombstones. So when the town shows up the next day, everything is covered in blood. Throughout the graveyard, there's blood everywhere. And they find these 5 tombstones that have his name etched on them. And somebody says, well, that's impossible. He can't be buried under 5 tombstones. And then another town person says, can't he? And that's how it ends. It's super dark. It's super strange because here you've got, I guess, a potentially racist person who rises from the dead to get revenge on somebody that desecrated his body for being racist. Perhaps the story is kind of talking about who has the right to punish others. Maybe. Sort of that let he who has not sinned cast the first stone idea. That God is the one who should judge, not you. But I don't know. It's a weird one. It's a very, very interesting, strange story. It's not my favorite from the book. I can't even say that the prose were incredible because he wasn't being very flamboyant while he was writing this. This is very straightforward, to be perfectly honest. It almost makes me think, and there's nothing to verify this in any way. There's no proof of this at all. But it almost makes me think, I wonder if he wrote this a lot earlier and just didn't bother to show it to anybody, and then just eventually sent it off to get published in 47 so he could get it in the book. But I don't know. It's very straightforward. It's very basic. It's very dark. And there's just nobody to root for. There's no one to feel sorry for. Everybody seems kind of despicable. So in the Ray Bradbury Theater, they really kind of punch up his despicableness. Like the person I was telling you about with the really strong body that the women really liked. In the Ray Bradbury Theater version, our lead character notices that he's cheating with someone. And he calls that person's husband and tells him, your wife is cheating on you, here's where they are, and the husband brings a gun and shoots him. And that's why he's dead. And that's not in the story at all. That's just in the Ray Bradbury Theater. But you begin to realize that he might be part of the reason that these people are dying in the Ray Bradbury Theater version, which makes him more despicable. So it's a little bit easier to think that he deserved it. But there's also a scene where the racist guy is messing with this black guy in the Ray Bradbury theater version, you know? I mean, everybody's still pretty despicable. It's a tough story. It's a weird one. It's a very strange one. But I am glad that I read it, and I'm really glad that they redid this book. It really is wonderful. To see this early Ray Bradbury stuff is really a great experience. All right, well, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please hit the like button. If you want to see more like this, make sure to subscribe, and have a great day.